We are back with another Wealth Kill freestyle, and this one comes from a reader's question. So our first ever video triggered by a reader's question. So in our Wealth Kill Weekly and also in our YouTube comments, so if you're watching this and you have a question, drop it in the YouTube comments. But we had a question that pretty much came up that said, hey, what are common tax deductions that you're seeing out there for physicians that earn 1099 income? Whether that is coming in from a side gig or maybe your entire income is derived from 1099. And it was a great question because I'm actually shocked by the amount of times that we'll get new clients and they'll have a side gig, right? They have their main role as a W-2 physician, but they have this side gig, and we'll take a look at their Schedule C and we'll see nothing on there. It's just the income. And while that might be right, they're probably missing something, and they're probably missing a lot of things in there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through some of the most common ones that we see. Now, I am a CFP. I am not a CPA. Don't take tax advice from me. I am just giving you some ideas. Take these to your accountant and then confirm if I'm crazy or not. While I know that these have been useful with a lot of clients, I also don't know your exact situation. I've never met you before. You're just watching me on YouTube. So make sure that you understand this is not tax advice. Please confirm this with your accountant before you put anything into play. But with all that said, we should have some helpful ideas, in here for you. So stay tuned. All those fun tips, tricks are coming up next, and we'll get into it. Stay tuned. First up, one of my favorites, the home office deduction. Now the key here, it needs to be used regularly and exclusively for business use. But this is why this one's powerful. Let's just say you have an area that meets all the IRS rules and it's 300 square feet and your total home size is 3,000 square feet. Moral of the story, 10%, right? You now get to write off 10% of a lot of things. Think about it. You have your mortgage payment, you have your homeowner's insurance, you have your electricity, you have your utilities, you have your internet. You have a lot of things that are coming into that overall web of expenses that can fall into there. So the first one we do not want you to miss if you're earning 1099 income is that home office deduction. Again, confirm this with your accountant, build a nice spreadsheet, track everything, but that home office is a wonderful deduction to take advantage of. Next up, internet and phone. I wanted to separate this one from the home office because technically you can have these expenses without having the full home office deduction. So that's why I try to separate these two. But in this example, again, 1099 work, looking for expenses here. You're probably working on a computer. That computer likely needs internet. Now, you can't just say deduct everything. You got to get smart again with your percentages. You want to document everything for the IRS. You want to confirm everything with your accountant. And the same would hold true for your phone as well, where, if you say, hey, the bulk of my phone usage is for personal use, but, I do take about 10% of my calls for work as well. You just want to document all these, confirm these with your accountant. But internet and phone are two other easy deductions when you have self-employment income, aka 1099 income for this example. So put those on your radar as well as pretty good expenses to take advantage of. Next up, the travel expense. So if you are a 1099 physician and you are traveling for work, maybe you're flying to a conference, don't forget to track your airfare, your bag, your meals, your Ubers, anything that you're utilizing for that business trip. Now the key is it needs to be a real business trip. So don't tell me you flew out to Turks and Caicos, you handed out 2 cards that tell them to come visit you and check out your blog, and if they want to fly to this city for their next procedure, they can. That's not going to cut it. But if it's a true business travel expense, I always use conferences because I think that's the best example. Make sure that you're documenting everything, provide those to your accountant at the end of the year, and boom, you have another great tax deduction to lower that 1099 income while following the rules. Next up, the vehicle tax deduction. I think this one's a little bit harder for physicians, especially if it's a side gig. It's probably not just utilized only for 100% business, and that's the key here. So 2 things you want to keep in mind here. You can either do a percentage basis, similar to what I noted earlier on what's the square footage, but more or less, hey, I use this car for 10% of my work for my side gig. Use that example. Or you can take the mileage deduction, which that number will change every year. Currently, it's at 65 cents and change, I believe. So you can either use it per mile or the actual expenses, but then breaking it down by a percentage of what was actually used for your 1099 income. So If your W-2 role is 90% of the use, but then your side gig where you have to drive to a further hospital, that could be an example of where you could take advantage of that vehicle deduction. But again, track, document everything, provide it to your accountant, let them finalize things for you to make sure you're not missing anything. Next up, I'm going to combine a few here, but again, deductions for that 1099 income, we're looking at memberships, dues, education. So anything that you're paying for to either keep a membership per se for this side gig, or maybe it's your entire gig, right? If everything's 1099 income, anything education based that's going to help you sharpen up your skills, or maybe you have some continued education, right? You got to always add those in as well. So if you have something separate, that is something to track. So as I've noted for all of these so far, the goal is to document everything, keep good records, provide those to your accountant, maybe add a note in what this membership was for, what this due was for, provide those to your accountant, let them fine tune everything. And then again, making sure you're not missing anything when you're walking through your Schedule C. Next up, business insurance. Two common examples we'll see here is one, auto insurance, right? If you have a business vehicle that's exclusive business or it's a percentage of a vehicle, don't forget that a portion of that auto coverage is going to have a deduction to it. The other common one we'll see is if there is a separate medical malpractice insurance policy that needs to be bought for your side hustle. So let's just say you're doing your usual thing through your academic role, but then you have this side gig where you did need to add an extra layer of insurance. That would be a good example of an extra business insurance that could be covered there. So moral of the story, if you're buying any specific insurance for your 1099 income, don't miss that deduction because usually those numbers are also a little bit higher too, especially for medical malpractice insurance. So keep an eye on those. Again, good records, present those to your accountant, let them double check and make sure that you're not missing anything on that Schedule C. Another slam dunk, marketing cost. And marketing, I'm going to make this a little bit broader, but let's just say you do have a side gig. You create a website. That's an expense, right? That's deductible. Are you paying someone to host the website on an annual basis? That's a deduction. Are you actually doing any type of advertising? Are you paying someone to help with your TikTok videos? Whatever you're doing in terms of marketing, remember, these are all deductible business expenses. These are literally direct costs to improve or grow your business. So track everything in terms of marketing and websites and present those to your accountant, detailed, organized, provide those over, and make sure you're not missing any of the marketing expenses that can help you lower that Schedule C income as a 1099 physician. My favorite one, the retirement plan. Don't forget, with 1099 income, you open up a whole new world of retirement accounts. Usually we're looking for you to open up something called a solo 401k plan, while SEP IRAs are also very popular. We don't love the SEP because it can ruin your backdoor Roth IRA. So look into something called a solo 401k plan. If you have really good 1099 income, you could maybe get into something called a cash balance plan, which is actually what we would label as a defined benefit plan. Now, this is next level stuff, but just put it on your radar. But the main thing here is don't forget that 1099 income opens up a whole new world of retirement accounts and pre-tax deductions that you can take advantage of. So my favorite, retirement accounts, don't miss those on your 1099 income. Make sure you're working with your accountant to take full advantage of those, or your financial advisor to introduce some of those new accounts that could be a benefit for you. Another big one that you don't want to miss is your health insurance premiums. Now, this is somewhat unique because you'd have to be buying your own health insurance. So if you do have all 1099 income, so you are a completely self-employed physician and you also can't join a spouse's plan, this could be a large deduction for you because unfortunately health insurance is very expensive. But all those health insurance premiums, dental, vision, can be 100% deductible for you if that plays out as I just noted there. So again, you're buying your own health insurance, you're not eligible to join a spouse's plan, or maybe you don't have a spouse's plan to join, you can fully deduct your insurance premiums. And if you know the cost of health insurance, you know that could be a large deduction. So I kind of saved the two biggest ones that we see for last there. I guess you could say I started with another big one with the home office, but your retirement plan and that health insurance are two large ones to keep an eye on for sure. Last but not least, the self-employment tax deduction. Now, the good news is this is one that you don't really have to go out of your way to find. This is one that your accountant will find naturally, but the downside in 1099 income is you have to pay both sides of what we call FICA taxes, employment taxes. But the good news is in this example, 1/2 of those as a business owner will be deductible. So that is one that you don't have to go out of your way to find. It will show up automatically with your accountant, your CPA working through those. But don't forget that that ends up being a tax deduction. So that is another one to have on your radar there, and one that hopefully hopefully is not missed because it's literally getting pulled out of the documents that are being created for your current tax return. So don't miss out on that self-employment tax, or should we say, make sure your accountant doesn't miss out on that self-employment tax. And there you have it. 10 of my favorite ways to lower your 1099 income. Now that is the key for this video, right? You had self-employment income. Those do not pertain to everyone that you just have W-2 income. So this is one of those ones where you have 1099 income coming in, you're filing a Schedule C every year with your taxes. So these are 10 of my most common, I'd even say some of my favorites are in there. Probably missing a few, probably could have added a few other ones, but those are 10 that you don't want to miss, or at least make sure you're double checking the math on. As always, the tax code is complex. It changes literally all the time. Please do not take this as tax advice. Please confirm everything I said with your accountant, confirm it with your CPA, take my ideas to them, but remember, they're the ones that sign off on your return every year. So I hope you enjoyed some of these. As I noted at the start of the video, this all came from a user question, from a viewer's question, I should say. So if you have any questions or any topics you'd like to see covered, drop us a note in the comments below. I'll also be sure to check those as often as I can because I love making content that is coming from your questions in particular. So as always, thanks for hanging out with me for the last 10, 15 minutes or so. If you have not subscribed, now would be a great time to subscribe. You click on this little bell icon. You also get a notification every time we release new content. As always, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next video.